This is Fight Fans Radio.
Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Matt Roth, and this is the Untethered Podcast, and my friends, Fagan and Derek Sapatiki are here with me, and we're going to be talking about MMA today. Today is a Thursday. It's a gorgeous Thursday night in the middle of December, and how's everybody doing today?
That was the worst intro ever, Matt.
Yeah, are we live? I don't even know if we're live right now because you didn't tell me whether or not we're live.
That was about the best I've ever done. So,
if you're,
we got a show right now. Let's talk.
If you're not in the Hangout, you want to reach us on reach the show. You can reach us on Twitter. You can reach me at It's Mike Fagan, Derek at Untethered Subo, and Matt Roth at MattRoth512. So, gentlemen, I am currently in the beautiful city of Lansing, Michigan, on somewhat unfortunate circumstances, but I'm a little hopped up. I've been driving for 4 hours. I got another 4 hours ahead of me going back home. So if I seem a little scattered today, my apologies.
That's okay.
Don't worry about it, Mike. It'll be hard to tell, so it's all right.
So I think the biggest news that came out in the last couple of days is Antonio Silva testing for elevated levels of testosterone, testing positive for elevated levels of testosterone.
For the second time, by the way.
For the second time. The first time he actually popped for roids. This time there is a difference.
And he had one of the great steroid defenses of all time. He said, if I take boldenone, I will die. And that was his defense against boldenone, testing positive for it. It will kill me if I take that.
He's claiming that the doctor that he worked with, which is the doctor the UFC uses down in Brazil, basically fucked up his regimen, and he is, according to MMA Fighting, looking into a lawsuit. Now, Derek, I want to get to you first about this because it sounds like you're one wanting to fend off the claim that the UFC is some sort of steroid machinery.
It's and a murder factory. We've already established that, but let's not inject the murder factory with steroids.
And you also had your reservations about Bigfoot being a cheater. So address those any order that you'd like.
Well, Bigfoot, and I was kind of waiting for the waves of you have to cut Bigfoot now because that normally happens, I believe, after Chris Lieben popped for the second time for painkillers, and a couple of other fighters. Once they have that second test, people don't really give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. But as Brent Brookhouse and some other people who have issues with drug use in the UFC have pointed out, Bigfoot is one of those athletes, if you know anything about gigantism and acromalgy, which I believe is how you pronounce it. But it really reduces your testosterone production as you grow old, and especially after you have the surgery to correct your pituitary gland issue that caused you to overproduce human growth hormones and testosterone in the first place, which is how you got so fucking big and bad. So there is a legitimate medical, kind of school of thought and expectation that somebody who had that issue in the surgery that Bigfoot did would need testosterone replacement therapy just kind of as a rule, whether or not they were an athlete, because their body doesn't produce enough. Now, the story is that he has a note from his doctor, an email, a purported email, that the translation says, you're okay right now, your levels are low, the fight's in a week, you can take a shot now and then test yourself and you should be fine. And if athletes are getting in trouble for actually listening to their doctors, and this doctor doesn't have any official affiliation with the UFC, he's not on their payroll, but I believe if an athlete from Brazil says, hey, I want to go see somebody about this, who do I see? The UFC will give this doctor's name and say, go see him. But that's different than him being a quote-unquote UFC doctor. I don't think testosterone replacement therapy is some big scam that allows fighters to cheat when they don't need to and they have absolutely no medical basis for it. And I don't really want to see Bigfoot lose his job, and it's not just because I watched him kick ass a week and a half ago. It's because I give him the benefit of the doubt as far as his medical history, and he has a much more legitimate case than, Chael Sonnen claiming hypogonadism, or it's bodybuilders who have had issues, or Todd Duffy, whatever his thing is. Acromegaly is a legitimate medical concern that Bigfoot obviously has, and it's something he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his life, whether or not he's fighting.
Here's the thing, and I've kind of gone back and forth between the whole TRT argument, and I'm gonna play the other side that I normally do, which is in certain cases I can understand testosterone replacement therapy, and yeah, it would be predicated on using steroids in the past, but whether you used steroids in the past and didn't pop for them, or you did get pop for steroids. No matter the reasoning, if now you need testosterone replacement therapy to go back to normalized levels, there shouldn't be a penalty, I guess. Well,
there's obviously a stigma, and it's propagated by people like Zach Arnold, who think that the UFC is enabling these athletes to cheat and encouraging them to do so.
No, but here's the thing. Like, the stigma is always going to be there. If you're a cheater, you're always like you did cheat. Like, it's not that doesn't change anything.
Okay, but now these guys that are on TRT, they carry an expectation, like you said, whether or not they tested positive earlier in their careers. People assume that it was steroid abuse that led them to use it now.
But okay, so the example of Vitor Belfort, and he's the example that we all fall back on because he does have that positive that positive test. And you look at Vitor now versus now at how old is he? Like 37 years old.
I want to say 38, but I'm not
38, sure. And he looks in better shape now than he did when he entered the UFC. After the Affliction deal, he looks better now than he did 4 years ago. He honestly he looks physically better than he did when he entered the UFC at 19 years old. So it's tough to say that there isn't some sort of a benefit. But at the same time, I think that it shouldn't be, oh, you did steroids in the past. I think it should be, you as a 38-year-old athlete, you shouldn't be using testosterone. Shouldn't be allowed to eat to level everything out, because honestly, at 28 right now, I'm sure that my T levels are lower than they were when I was 21 or I was 18. I'm sure that when I'm 29, they're gonna, I don't know how incrementally it lowers, but it's always gonna be lower. So he's 36, not 38. But
Bigfoot is 34, so he doesn't really have that age argument either.
Right, but kind of like your T levels naturally go down all the time, and I don't think that if you're going to be fighting, then you should be fighting as you are, not not as what can synthetically get you there.
Yeah, and go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing I want to bring it back to Bigfoot for a second. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that there wasn't anyone on that card in Australia that the UFC gave a therapeutic use exemption to, correct?
I didn't hear anything about that, no.
So the one of the issues is that if Bigfoot is on TRT and he didn't receive a TUE, then there's an issue with that. The other thing, and this comes up every single time one of these tests comes out, testing positive for an elevated level of testosterone, which is testing. I believe I don't know what it is in Australia.
California and New Jersey allows to 4-to-1, and Vegas allows a 6-to-1.
Well, that's the issue. Is it the ratio or is it the actual level of testosterone?
Yeah, because it can be nanograms per milliliter, or it can be that ratio, as you mentioned. I'll quickly. Yeah,
well, let me explain the ratio first, because the ratio doesn't tell you anything about how much testosterone you have in your system. Right. The only thing that tells you is how much testosterone you have to epitestosterone, which that guideline, that ratio, lets you figure out if a guy took steroids or took some sort of something that wasn't created naturally.
Right.
The only thing that actually tells you if he has, his actual levels is a blood test that gives you his actual level of testosterone.
Right, and that's a decent range. Receiving a therapeutic use exemption doesn't do anything to your requirements at fight time as far as testosterone levels. You still have to be within the 4 or 6-to-1, and you still have to have the same testosterone. So whether or not he got a TUE is interesting, but ultimately it doesn't matter, because if he followed his doctor's orders, whether or not he had the TUE,
in that levels.
Yeah, exactly. He still would have popped either way with the TUE or not.
And that kind of goes back to the other thing, which is like, and that's also why people view it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I typed it right as you said it. We're waiting. Matt, I hope you haven't been talking this whole time, because you have to say it again, buddy.
He's not there.
Well, shit.
He's dead.
We were having a wonderful, productive conversation there, too. And we were going to shit on Zach Arnold pretty soon, which I love doing.
Well, Mr. Scalia posted a junky article here. It looks like it's about the doctor that Bigfoot used. I'll just read some quotes as I read it here. Dr. Marcio Tenure. He says, to be clear, I am not, nor have I ever been Antonio Silva's medical doctor.
Sorry, I lost internet for a little bit.
Or he's saying his doctor recommended that Antonio increase the frequency. You can't read this whole thing, Mike. We got to paraphrase it. But this guy is saying that his doctor, Antonio's doctor, so a different doctor, recommended that Antonio increase the frequency of his dosage of testosterone based on his prior levels. And I was asked to communicate that recommendation to Antonio, which I did via email. So this guy's saying, I sent the email, but I'm not his doctor. His doctor told me to send him the email. Mm. So it's not like some fucking smoking gun, Bigfoot's full of shit thing. I feel bad for the guy. I don't want to see him lose his job. He's a welcome addition to the UFC heavyweight division. Just put on one of the near fights of the year, and hopefully if we don't have the discussion next week, we can start on some Christmas into the year shit this week. We got a nice little panel here to chime in on it. Like I said, I don't think that this is some worldwide 50-state athletic commission, hundreds of doctors, thousands of people conspiracy to help the UFC athletes cheat on a level that no other sport does. It just doesn't ring true to me.
Well, and on that note, I mean, how many guys are currently on? I mean,
that we know about?
Isn't it currently on still? Isn't it just like 3 or 4? Because it's like Mir, Chell, and Dan Henderson?
And Todd Duffy, when he comes
Todd Duffy
back.
I thought Todd Duffy said he was off it now.
I'm not sure, maybe. Belfort, you've got Belfort. Who else? I don't know. I hope it comes out that Anderson Silva's on it just to blow everyone's fucking head.
What were you going to say, Matt?
But Ben Rothwell, he's on it.
Oh, Rothwell. Was he another guy that said he's off it now, though?
No, he was on it, and that's why he got. But he didn't ask for a TUE.
And Wisconsin did get him in trouble. The UFC did. So.
Right. Wisconsin said that there's nothing we could do. But kind of going back, because I lost internet for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure you were going to say something smart there. That's why we were saying.
Which is, it's basically it's another way to use steroids without being illegally using steroids, because steroids are illegal in the United States. The benefit is in training. The benefit is in the fact that you don't need to wait for your body to put itself back together.
Recovery time is a lot lower.
Right, it's a lot lower. And I'm assuming, and again, I don't know this because despite the fact that my father's a doctor, I'm not a doctor. I'm assuming that the more testosterone that you take, the more that it would help your recovery time.
There might be diminishing returns. I'm not an expert on it though.
We have another quote from Mr. Scalia on the doctor, Mr. Tenure, and I'm going to say that because it rhymes with manure. Antonio's primary physician and I agreed that the last injection of testosterone was to be taken on November 30th, 2013, 1 week prior to the fight. I communicated this to Antonio as well. That was the extent of my involvement in this matter. He's talking like he's worried about getting sued. Like, don't sue me, sue the guy that talked to me. But the bottom line is that Antonio Silva was advised by at least one, if not two doctors to take a shot of testosterone a week before his fight, and it turns out that was the one that fucked him.
One thing I want to add, the last thing I want to talk about.
Derek, that's also assuming that was the last shot that he did take.
Well, that's Bigfoot's story, that he took the shot on the doctor's notice, and they told him he could a week out because his levels were low relative to where they were before. That the expectation was his levels would be low enough by fight time to justify that last shot, and his doctors were wrong. It wasn't some kind of freelance work by Silva.
But here's where you'd have the counter argument, which is, are they low relative to what they, to the expectation? Like, if you're planning on coming in with a 6-to-1 ratio, and it's 4-to-1, like is that your levels being low, or is it your levels being low because we wanted to come in with a 6-to-1 ratio?
Well, I mean, what do you want him to do? Like, no, if you want the ratio to be 6-to-1 a week before the fight, then make the ratio 6-to-1 a week before the fight. It's like weight cutting. You can't get pissed at people for cutting weight any more than you can get pissed at people for cutting testosterone, because as long as you're within the limits they set for the time of the fight, you have followed the rules.
Right, but that's the question for me, at least, is that if we're saying 6-to-1 is the maximum amount, and the average adult male adult has a range of 2-to-1 to 1-to-1, and you're saying we're going to allow 6-to-1, what's preventing these guys from super injecting themselves up to the point that by fight time they are coming in at 6-to-1, but 6-to-1 is a really unrealistic number compared to what it should be. Your body should be.
That's an average human being and not a professional athlete. There's going to be some genetic disparity there. I'd also say that if they've determined that 6-to-1 is the safe, like you're not going to damage yourself long-term ratio, then I differentiate a little bit between testosterone and steroids, because steroids are meant to either stimulate testosterone production or to mirror the effects of testosterone without it, and that leads to all kinds of side effects. Having enough testosterone in your system where it helps you but it doesn't hurt you should be legal, in my opinion.
But again, guys, the ratio doesn't tell you anything about the actual testosterone in his body.
It just means
if you produce testosterone at such a low level that you need to take injections, you're going to be out of that 6-to-1 ratio almost every single time, especially if it's extremely low. I mean, I don't know what Bigfoot's production is like.
Nor do I. And that's what we got to be careful about here with our spindles on, because I put my spindle on more than I normally do on this fucking show today.
All the ratio tells you is whether or not the testosterone was produced naturally or through some sort of injection or ingestible. It's the actual level of your testosterone itself, the actual that nanograms per milliliter number that you quoted earlier, Derek. That's the actual level of your testosterone.
Right, we don't know actually, and I haven't read whether or not Bigfoot popped for one or the other. All I know is it's elevated testosterone levels. I don't know if it's too much per liter or if it's too much relative to what he should have it.
The Junkie article, the doctor said that it was the ratio.
The ratio. Okay, so I mean, clearly he has been injecting and supplementing himself. We'll have to see whether it was 7-to-1 or I think Overeem was 11-to-1 when he popped, which is just fucking ridiculous. And he's not on TRT. So I need to know more about Bigfoot. I'm not ready to just toss him on the trash heap. And interestingly, most of these anti-steroid crusaders, very, very cautious about tossing the actual cheaters under the bus. They want to throw the UFC, the athletic commissions, and everybody else who's purportedly trying to stop it under the bus, but not the people who are actually doing it.
Now here's the question I have. Does this change the magic that you saw in Brisbane?
I was actually going to ask, does this taint the fight to you?
Is there an asterisk there?
No.
No, it hurts Mark Hunt's money. That's the thing that I think, Mike, you and I would probably disagree on, because I really don't want to see Barry Bonds or Clemens or any of those assholes in the Hall of Fame. I'm totally cool with him never being in the Hall of Fame. I know, and you hate me for it. And
I don't get it.
You love this Deadspin ballot where they're just going to vote for it.
I think it's great.
Well, and I think Pete Rose should be it. But Barry Bonds is a fat-headed fucking juicer and a perjurer, and I don't want to see him in the Hall of Fame.
I can't understand wanting Pete Rose in, but Barry Bonds out. I want both of them in, but I can't understand one or the other.
Well, I mean, Pete Rose only bet on his team. He never bet against his team. So really, there's just an added incentive to win as far as I'm concerned.
There's only been one rule posted in every clubhouse in baseball since 1919, and it says do not bet on baseball.
Well, maybe they should have thrown don't do roids on there, too. Because roids, they fuck shit up a little bit.
Again, I don't want to get too deep into it. My thing is that
if you keep guys
all
like
of baseball's
Bonds
history should be represented.
If you fuck guys like Bonds and McGuire and Sosa, then a guy like Larry Walker just has to get in, and he should be in.
No, Walker should
put
be
in Harold Raines, yes, he should, but he won't get in if you put in these steroid assholes because his numbers aren't as good because he wasn't a juice.
That's not necessarily true. Anyway, moving on. The Fox 9 show. We're gonna talk about that.
No, I mean, nothing really happened.
Oh, you just want to skip it?
Yeah, nothing really happened at that show. Not, like there wasn't a really good knockout or anything, right?
Not at all. I mean, well, dude, it's 125 main event. Like, what do you expect? It was 25 minutes of dudes on their bikes. It was technically awesome and bippity-boo, but you know what? Who gives a shit?
A lot of punches and bunches, but nothing did any damage. We can skip it.
Punches in bunches. Yeah, there were some fascinating little combos in there. God damn. That's,
Go ahead. I was most impressed with how quickly and then how rapid fire Johnson was after he put Benavidez on the mat.
Oh my God!
How quickly he followed up, and then he threw 4 punches before he got pulled off.
No, those were 5 punches. That was 5 punches.
I mean, that's just. And I mean, I think McCarthy was a little bit out of position, but like not so out of position that that was an insane ending to me.
Nobody thinks that Johnson is a dick, right?
No.
No.
I think Big John's a dick for not stopping it quick enough.
I thought that Joe Rogan shitting all over the face of Chad Mendez for like 12 minutes was fucking hilarious. I've never heard him belittle a winner of a fight like that. I'm surprised there wasn't a post-fight interview. So he's like, "We're Chad. What the fuck?" Yeah,
what happened with that? I was only sort of paying attention to stuff going on.
He had the flu.
So he slowed down. He looked great for 3 minutes, and then he just kind of rode his way to a decision and threw bombs when he could. And Rogan, just the entire second and third round, was just like, "This doesn't look like Chad Mendez."
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Totally looks like Chad Mendez. If you watch the WEC, that was a dude that everybody complained about. Like literally, if you ever watch the WEC and were in like a comment section, like people hated Chad Mendez.
And I was pretty impressed by Lentz. I thought Lentz acquitted himself well. He had some good body kicks. On the ground he didn't get completely smashed. But a healthy Chad Mendez, he probably melts in that first round flurry.
Yeah, that first round flurry was.
Oh yeah,
I thought that fight was over right then.
So we've got Aldo versus Lamas coming up. If Aldo defends, has Mendez earned another crack, or do you want to see him do something else?
I think he's earned a crack as far as if you look at his record, but kind of like what this is where I agree with Joe Rogan. It's a tough sell to say that that's the fight that gets you a title fight, or that's the performance that gets you a title fight.
Well, if not Mendez, who?
He already beat Korean Zombie. I mean, who's Poirier fighting? He can't really leapfrog.
Cub Swanson, I guess, is the other shot.
Swanson's out there, but again, it's really hard to sell that fight. Like, Aldo versus Swanson. I know they won't call it 2 because it happened in the WEC, but like, have they fought before? What happened? Double knee to the face. 6 seconds. Like he'd been shot.
But here's the thing. At one point, do we stop bringing up a fight that happened 4 years ago?
Never, because you can't sell that rematch. You can't sell me that rematch and just be like, this is a competitive bout. Like,
so the fact that Cub Swanson looks better than he ever, that doesn't change anything. That doesn't change anything 4 years ago.
Not when Neo kicks your ass. When Neo kicks your ass, it's like, well, Forrest Griffin has been on a tear lately. Let's put him against Anderson Silva again. Like, no.
Well, and the problem for Swanson too is that normally we would have this discussion about Mendez because Aldo knocked him out 2 years ago, but because Swanson got knocked out in even more embarrassing a fashion. It's hard to let that slide for
let me clarify.
Swanson while letting it slide for Mendez.
Double flying knee to the face. Before he had touched him, it was the only parts of his body that touched him were his kneecaps on his eyebrows. That's how that fight went.
Then I mean, but using that logic, I mean, then Uriah Faber shouldn't be next in line for a bantamweight title shot because he was embarrassed by Barral and by Cruz.
No, because they touched him with other parts of their body other than their 2 kneecaps one time.
No, but he was embarrassed.
Not the same.
And he was not embarrassed in the Cruz fight. That fight was
razor close. He was disappointed to lose the decision.
Razor close.
And a lot of people gave it
razor
the
close,
decision.
Derek. Razor
3-2.
Close.
3-2.
What the fuck is razor close?
It means it's like this. It's one side or the other side. What's separating it is a razor. You have to use your head.
It's razor thin, Derek.
Razor close. And also it's as close to your skin as a razor gets.
That is not the phrase.
How close does a razor get to your skin? It's very close. Razor close.
Oh my God, you were the worst, Derek.
Whatever.
That is not the phrase.
Don't make me curse you on this day of all days. Show some goddamn respect.
Yeah, Mike. This is my special day. Don't you ruin it.
How dare you?
Speaking of Faber,
pretty fucking awesome fighter. I want to write an appreciation piece about him.
He's a guy who I think has gone from overrated to underrated, back to overrated, back to underrated.
I think he's properly rated now because he's considered an all-time great, and that's what he is.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, you and your goddamn specific, like, you're not an all-time great. Rich Franklin isn't an all-time great.
I agree with you.
How is Uriah Faber not like Rich Franklin?
I disagree with you. What are you talking about?
But I'm saying Uriah Faber is great, and you're saying he is. You would not say Rich Franklin's an all-time great.
No.
But they're the same guy, only in different divisions.
No,
they're not. No, they're not.
They are. They were the champ until someone better came along, and then they were awesome for a
while
after
that.
No. Derek, come on, stop it. Derek, you're embarrassing.
You think I'm insulting him? I consider them both all-time greats, but they are solid number 2 or number 3s that were still amazing for long periods of time after they were the champ.
Derek, this is the difference. Rich Franklin was the number 2 in the division for, what, like 6 months?
Oh, more than that. He beat Okabe after that, I think.
Okay, 7 months. He was the number 2 in the division. Uriah Faber has been the number 2 in the division for...
But he's number 3 now because it's Cruz and Burrell.
Okay, so he's 2.5 right now in the division.
I thought Burrell embarrassed him. What the fuck do you mean 2.5?
No, he's number 2.5.
You see how it shifts?
He's number 2.5. Because you have 2 champions. I'm not going to say one. I can't say that Dominic Cruz is the number 1. I can't say that the Burrell's the number 1.
What do you mean you can't? Well, that means there's 2 guys.
2 champions. We have 2 champions, Derek.
And they're both going to be above Faber after that fight, which means Faber is 3. Because they both beat him.
I don't know. Faber beat him once.
I thought he got embarrassed. Get the fuck out of here. You're ridiculous. You change your goddamn mind every 2 minutes. It's not even fun.
The difference between Franklin and Faber is that Faber had success against top guys. I don't think Franklin had that success against top guys, at their top peak. He beat Vanderlei, but he beat Vanderlei when Vanderlei was old and such.
He beat him 2 times.
He beat Chuck, but he beat Chuck in his last fight.
With a broken arm.
He beat Yushin Okami before Yushin Okami, became this middleweight stalwart. And then you go back
like 8 straight fights going into that.
Against who?
Well, he had that was for a title shot. Like that fight, that was Yushin Okami blowing another fight on the route to a title shot, like he did against Chael later on. That was just what Yushin Okami did. But you have a hatred of Rich Franklin based on his creationism that I find completely irrational, and it's a crossover. You can't deny it.
I don't hate Rich Franklin because of his weird creationist shit. I just don't think. I think he's.
It doesn't help.
He's a very good fighter. He's just not an all-time great.
But Uriah Faber is an all-time great.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
here's the thing. Faber was not only the face of that division, the face of the WEC. He's a crossover star, and he's beaten guys. Top guys over a longer span. We joke around about how he's lost a bunch of title fights, but he's only lost to.
He's only lost in title fights.
4, 5 different guys, and one of them was Tyson Griffin.
In a title fight.
And being number 2 and number 3 in the world for long periods of time is really fucking good. But I just remember I think it was 2 years ago when it was all Uriah Faber has to do is to win one fight. He gets a title shot, and he's Zuffa's golden child, and they just want to sell him, and he doesn't deserve what he's getting. Yeah, he does. And yeah, he did. And he did it by beating everyone that wasn't a little bit better than him. And right now it's two guys in the division. I think he's better than Rich Franklin of all time, but I don't boot Rich Franklin out of my Hall of Fame and put him in the Hall of Very Good like you do. You're more stringent.
I would say this. If for some reason Faber's career ended after the Barao fight or the second Cruz fight, I think you have a better argument. But I think because Faber's gone on this run at 33, 32, 33, 34, against the guys that he's beaten in the last 4 fights, that sort of cements his legacy to me. That he's able to continue to beat top guys at his level. Now
this is now my one beef. Everybody's talking about how Faber is one of the fighters of the year. Like he should be the fighter of the year because he has 4 wins in 2013.
Demetrius Johnson.
Against who? Who did he beat in 2013?
Yuri Alcantara, who's awesome. Very, very good.
That's not 3 title fights.
Well, no, it should be Demetrius Johnson. Like, there's no question in my mind, unless Weidman can pull it off, and even then, I'd give it to Demetrius Johnson.
And he beat Ivan Menjivar. Like, dude, honestly, yeah, he won 4 fights in 2013, not against the same level of competition.
It's hard to go against an undefeated champion, especially when one fights as often as Demetrius does. Like, he's been on it. Like, this has been his breakout year, and dear Lord, that knockout just fucking solidified it.
Here's the question for me with Johnson. What you could argue that he's very GSP like in his approach to everything and how he's very well spoken and eloquent, and he's improving in every single outing. What was the it factor that made GSP in Canada a hero versus David Loiseau versus what's it called, Carlos Newton? What made GSP what was GSP's hit factor that Demetrius Johnson lacks besides being 170 versus 125?
I think GSP was a little more uniquely Canadian, being as white as he was and actually having that French-ass Canadian accent, being bilingual. I don't know if Newton and Loiseau are, but if they are, I don't know about it. So I think that helped. Plus, he was really, really, really fucking good. That's why they rallied behind him more than Patrick Cote or Jason McDonald.
I think there's also there's 2 other things. There's one, he's a good-looking guy. That helps. And also, but he also, the fact that he had to go through Matt Hughes, I think plays a big part of it. I mean, when you look at all-time greats in boxing or in MMA, a lot of those guys built a legacy or a career off of a rivalry or off a fight against another big top guy. Vanderlei and Rampage Jackson built legacies off each other. Mm-hmm. Randy Couture built a legacy off of fighting top guys, and that trilogy with Chuck. And Chuck built his legacy on Randy, too.
That's a really good point. Hughes kind of handed off the title to GSP, and you had those 2 back-to-back, 5-6-year championship runs, which is awesome.
If you look at Johnson's wins, he has wins over the next 4 guys in line for his title: Dotson, Benavidez, McCall, and Moraga.
I still want to see the Dodson fight again. I'm still down to see that fight 9 times.
The difference with Johnson, though, is that none of those guys were established as a big foil, because the division is completely new to most fans. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't have that sort of story that, like a Ali Frazier, where Ali and Frazier built a legacy on each other.
Are we still pretending that Ian McCall is a title contender?
He's ranked number 3 right now.
Yeah, but I know he is, but I think that John Lineker would probably knock his fucking head off. I think that Tim Elliott would give him a run. I think that there are some guys out there that would beat Ian McCall now.
You know who looked really fucking good on in his fight? Zach Markovsky.
Oh, dude, fucking fun size. And I was prescient. I mentioned that as one of my perils of the unified talent pool, and then it turns out that now we have a new contender at 125 because Bellator cut a 6-2 former champion after a split decision loss. Thanks,
why did they cut him?
They were. It wasn't that
because they got too many fighters. They're too good, man. They
were fucking with him. They were fucking with him, and no. What ended up happening was they tried cutting his pay down to non-champion level after he signed a contract at his champion level pay.
The other last thing on the main card, why and I wrote about this at my column at MMA Al this week. Why is Mac Danzig still fighting at 155 pounds?
Why is Mac Danzig still fighting for the UFC?
Why is Mac Danzig still fighting?
Why is Mac Danzig? Hey, why is Mac Danzig?
Boom.
Yeah, but I mean, he's 5-8 in the UFC. He hasn't won a fight since 2012 against Efrain Escudero. Of his 5 UFC wins, only one is against a guy still active in the UFC. And he looks small at the weight class, and he's clearly he's not a great lightweight. So I don't,
Here's the thing with Mac Danzig, like he has all the skills. He has all the skills to be really good, and he can't do it.
The UFC announced there have been some reported cuts today in the UFC, and it does not
George Soteropoulos was one of them, and Rosie Sexton was another one.
As was Alessio Sakara, but I would not be surprised to see Mac Danzig and a few other fighters join those ranks here pretty shortly. Yeah,
Danzig's got to be cut, man. Like, there's only so long that you can stay with a losing record.
Well, again, I don't understand why he didn't, or why the UFC didn't push him to move down.
Why do we want the UFC pushing guys to move down? Like, do we really want them saying we'll keep you? We'll give you another fight if you. They've never said we'll give you another fight if you cut. If you don't, then fuck you.
Well, how do you know that? How do you know that?
Because they vow never to do it, and I've never heard a fighter complain about it.
I mean, does Scott Jorgensen, should he be cut?
No, that was his first fight at 125 or second.
Yeah, but how many losses in a row?
Give him some more. We'll give him one more at that weight class. Like, you have to. That's a really good fighter he fought.
But how many losses in a row does he have?
I think 3, but one of them is Uriah Faber. So.
And the other one was a fighter who took the fight on 1 week or 2 weeks' notice. Like,
look. I understand that you think you have spots here to attack Scott Jorgensen, but I don't appreciate you burning him like that.
Jorgensen's
that's really messed up. All those spots.
He's got 4 losses in his last 5 fights. The only win was against John Albert, and he's lost to Makovsky, Faber, Wineland, and Barao.
It's tough keeping him. I'm gonna be honest, man.
Wineland, Faber, and Barao. Yeah, that's a nice little lineup right there. Everybody sleeps on Eddie Wineland right now, who would just be the champion of Earth everywhere else if it weren't for those 3 or 4 guys above him. Very, very good fighter. I bet Mr. Scalia here gets a striking hard on every time he sees him. I love Eddie Wineland.
Did you just say that he would be a champion if it wasn't for 3 or 4 guys above him?
If the rest of the division wasn't there,
watch. Once he fights a guy that's not as good as him, he's just gonna shit kick him in style.
Phil Davis would be light heavyweight champion if there wasn't 3 or 4 guys better.
I agree. He's a very good fighter.
Antonio Silva would be the heavyweight champion if it wasn't for 3 or 4 other guys.
It's probably more like 6 or 7 there. Let's be honest.
Josh Barnett would be the heavyweight champion if it wasn't for 5 other guys.
No, because it'd still be illegal to cheat, and that would.
But he hasn't cheated in the UFC.
Yeah, he did.
No, not lately.
He had one chance. He had one chance in a fucking decade.
And
1 for 1.
And he didn't cheat. He's a new man.
No, that's where I go. I call Zach Arnold. They faked his drug test. I'll buy that shit all day. Put that up on Fight Opinion. I'll fucking read it.
All right, Derek, I was asking for topics to talk about because I've been driving all day. You listed that there was more on GSP. Are you referring to the UFC 167 not being able to talk at the press conference stuff, the stuff that came out this week?
Yeah, I believe that we did the show the day before the press conference. It's just that the news had leaked. So, they had the whole thing where, they were saying that he left the door.
Oh, that's right.
Why? Yeah.
Right.
So the conference call was actually on Friday. So door is wide open to a return. 32 years old. We're talking about Uriah Faber's resurgence and ability to beat the shit out of 22-year-olds like Michael McDonald at the age of 34. He's still making runs for the title. I do think that it's not a retirement. It's a sabbatical, basically. He doesn't know if he'll come back or when, but it's definitely possible. And I want to hear what you have to say on this, Mike. What is your over-under on total UFC earnings in the career of George St. Pierre?
Over-under on his total earnings?
Total career earnings from the UFC, not including sponsors, not including TV ads in Canada or sponsorships on his shorts or any of that shit. money that he has been paid by Zuffa to fight in the UFC.
How many UFC fights does he have?
Well, let's look it up. But he's got about 8 straight title defenses,
with pay-per-view points.
It looks like he's got about 20 UFC fights.
20 UFC fights. How many as the champion? Won it, lost it. 1 defended. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 title fights, including the win and then 9 straight defenses. So what do you want to assume on that? An average, and he's getting pay-per-view points. So you want to assume $4 million a fight?
Well, not for his career. I mean, maybe for those title defenses.
For that 10-fight run, 40 a fight.
If I had to put a range on it, I would say
fight.
between $35 and $40 million.
$35, $40 million. Matt, do you have one?
Yeah, how much money did he make the UFC, Derek?
Well, that's an important. I mean, that's the big question when you're talking about, is this the slice of the pie fair? I mean, yeah, he's making a bunch of money, but if he made $35 million for his career, but he made the UFC $500 million, is that a fair cut?
Oh, absolutely, sure. Okay, who's the most underplayed player in the NBA?
Well, LeBron James.
Thank you. Why? Because he's worth $100 million to any team that'll have him, but they don't let you pay players that much.
Right, and the salary cap is fucking bogus.
No, because they're in a union.
It's actually Carmelo, Anthony. It's Carmelo.
Yeah, you go to hell. How are those Knicks? Knicks and Nets, man. You are surrounded by basketball shit when you are in the northeast part of this country.
The New York Knicks are my favorite comedy on TV right now.
I heard that Bargnani has just been beautiful thus far.
Well, in other
Matt doesn't want to talk anymore.
In other sort of gambling over-under sort of stuff, Derek, you think he's going to come back. I don't think he's going to come back. But
ever.
If
32 years old, he'll never fight again. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll explain it in a second, though.
Okay.
If he does come back, what's the over-under? How long is he going to be out?
Over-under for me would be 18 months. I'd say summer 2015.
Matt, what about you? If GSP comes back,
it's going to be if he does come back, it's going to be within 2 years. And I'm going to say that the fact is that his contract's frozen. So the only way that he is going to come back to MMA is in the UFC. He can't actually test the market at all.
And I love this. What idiot thought that he could just retire and come back and do that? I gotcha. That's not how it works.
But here's the thing that actually worked with a lot of other.
No.
No. I'm not talking about Randy Couture. I'm talking about Tom DeBlass. Tom DeBlass retired from MMA. Kurt Pellegrino retired from MMA, and guess where they went to go fight? Bellator.
Well, that's because the UFC didn't care. Like, okay, we were going to fire you anyway, so good luck with your retirement.
I'm just saying.
You can't do that when you're the champion. I mean, you can give up the belt, and that means that your clause it won't extend indefinitely anymore. But if he's still under contract, you don't get to come back and fight for somebody else. And anyone who thought that is a fucking idiot.
McKinley just jumped on. He said, we're talking GSP. He's never coming back. Here's the reason I think he's never coming back, Derek, is that he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that he seems like the kind of guy that enjoys competition, just like any other athlete. But he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that feels like he needs to prove anything. He's made a bunch of money. He's accomplished almost everything he could possibly accomplish in the sport. I just don't see him getting the itch to return. I see him enjoying his time off and then realizing I don't need the extra stress in my life.
Here's what I see, and I saw this a little bit with Anderson after the Weidman fight. I'm seeing it with GSP now, and I think you're going to see it more and more, especially with John Jones and some of the other champions that have the ability to move weight going forward. Being the champion sucks. You have to fight on a consistent basis. You fight the hardest guy in the division that they can find. You have to change your game plan every 4 or 5 months, different training camps. You're never out. You never get long breaks. People get pissed when you take them.
That's actually that's not the worst part. The worst part is the amount of press that you have to do.
That does suck too. Yeah, like I said, there's just never a day off. You're on the phone, you're taking pictures, you're doing magazine articles, and you're talking to assholes like Matt Roth for fucking websites you wipe your ass with. Like, what the fuck is the point? Gets old.
No, but the amount of press that, like, that GSP has to do is way more than a guy like Demetrius Johnson or Dominic Cruz. Like he was for 5 years the face of that organization
and the Canadian face of the sport
of the
he's
sport.
promoting the shit out of it out there too.
So you're not even talking like he's talking to people just to promote pay-per-views. Like in Canada, he has to do interviews all the time just because he's Canadian.
So what I think you'll see, go ahead. I mean,
and honestly, the biggest thing for him, and it's not the fighting. The fighting's easy for him. Like going to training is easy for him. He enjoys training. It's the fact that he, along with literally every other fighter, hates doing press. And it's not they hate talking to me. Dude, Chael Sonnen's press for every single fight, his PR days start at 5 in the morning, West Coast time. And he's doing press all the way till midnight, West Coast time. Like, the guy, it's exhausting. And GSP is doing the same exact thing. Like, Ronda Rousey is doing press luncheons today, and then she's going to be flying across the country to be doing ESPN, and there's so much shit that goes into this that people don't understand. Like, that's the exhausting part.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I love training and I love fighting because that really doesn't take up that much of my day. It's all the other shit that I have to do as part of this job.
Even cutting weight is easy for him.
Yeah,
You have to talk to me at 5 in the morning. That sucks.
Let me ask you this: I'm sure that Nick Diaz is training right now, just like he always has. I don't think there's any difference in his physical regimen as far as training for a fight. But what you'll end up seeing is these guys who attain that rank, win the belt, defend it a few times, take care of all their challengers. They're going to take that time off. They're going to give the belt up, and they're going to come back when something interests them. I don't think. I think we'll see George St. Pierre back. I have no confidence that it'll be at 170 pounds. Maybe he comes back because he thinks he can take a piece out of Chris Weidman or whoever the 185 champion is. Maybe there's some kind of super fight out there that's more intriguing to him, even if it's at a catch weight. And because it'll sell 1 million pay-per-views and revitalize the market in Canada, they'll be happy to do it. These fighters have to earn this leverage, but once they do, if they're willing to give up the belt having proved their point, they have all these different career options now, and I think Zuffa's going to be happy to facilitate them because it'll make both sides money.
But it comes down to this. Remember right after he lost to Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva was like, "I'm tired of being champion. I don't want to do it. I want to rematch." Blah blah blah. That was a very, very honest interview. I think that he was tired of all the amount of press and all the things that go into being champion. It's not the pressures of being champion. Defending your belt is defending your belt. It's not that's no added pressure. It's the fact that all you're doing is doing press in the lead up to the fights. And when you're champion, Anderson Silva for pay-per-views, John Jones is doing a ton of press right now. King Velasquez does so much press and signings, and he does openings of places
his shoulder.
Yeah, but seriously, but seriously, it's just you're wearing a Snuggie, so shut up. It's one of those things where. It's not the pressures of defending a belt. It's not the pressures of doing of cutting weight or fighting or training. It's the fact that oh man, I can't escape what I'm doing.
Now, Matt, I know you answered the potential over under, but do you think he's going to come back, or do you think he's done?
I think that the reason why he retired where he did was because of Dana White's rant, and I think that's what pushed him over. I think that's what pushed him over the edge. And I think that if he does come back, it's going to have to be a lot of talking with Dana to kind of squash whatever is going on. So I'm going to say he may come back, but I can't say for sure.
Now, Derek, before I get your response to that, I did bring it up earlier. There was a report out of a French-Canadian outlet that the UFC press people tried to keep George out of the 167 press conference. I think Dana said at the press conference that George was at the hospital, but he wasn't. He was just in the building waiting for stitches. The report sounds like GSP was not happy with how that was handled.
The French-Canadian press also reported that the Dana White called fucking George St. Pierre's manager and said, "I'm sorry, I watched the fight again. George St. Pierre won," and Dana White said that's total bullshit. So I think that's kind of hometown press coverage. I kind of take all of that with a grain of salt. So I don't really know how to speak to that. I already laughed at Matt, so you already have my response to that. He didn't fucking retire, and I'm pretty sure he'd been thinking about it for a long, long time before he finally pulled the trigger. He was probably thinking about it before his last fight.
No, I'm not saying he wasn't thinking of it. I think that what really put him over the edge was announcing it the way he did. Mm-hmm. What was Dana White's reaction at the press conference?
You have to think about it like in context. Like, let's say, I mean, you're 32 years old. You were out for a year and a half with a blown knee. You've been hit in your last 3 fights more than you've ever been hit before. You've got all the money in the world. So what's the motivation to just keep grinding it out? Why not take a year off while you're still young and come back when you're 33 and see what you got and make another $5 million for fighting?
Did both of you or either of you watch? I'm assuming you did, Matt. Did you watch the press conference or listen to it? I'm sorry, the conference call.
Yeah.
The thing that stuck out to me, the way that George was talking, he sounded like a boyfriend who had wanted to get out of a relationship for a long time, and he just felt like he needed to stay for loyalty or because he didn't want this girl to hurt herself or whatever. And when he finally was able to say, I need to walk away, he sounded so relieved. He just sounded very at peace and happy with that decision. Did you get the same impression as I did?
I got the impression that he contemplated this for a while, and that he definitely had the conversation with them and kind of did like the "it's not you, it's me" kind of thing.
That's all Dana White's fault. It's Dana being a dick. Way to go, Dana. You drive your biggest pay-per-view draw. Hey, is MMA dying in North America, guys?
I love that.
It is dying.
It's dying. Rest in peace, MMA.
I love that in Derek's mind, Dana White can do no wrong.
Right, fuck.
There's no possible way that what Dana White did.
What did I say? We had this discussion right after the pay-per-view. He should have worded it differently when he said it fucking live, and he should have worded it differently in the press conference afterwards. But he got ambushed by George St. Pierre saying, "I need to go away for a little bit." It threw him off, and he fucked up. Like, he made a mistake. But he's not the reason that George St. Pierre is leaving. There's a million other reasons, and if he comes back, it's not going to be because he forgave Dana White. It's a stupid narrative. Lazy.
I don't know. I don't know if I would agree that was the reason that George left or that was the final push.
What do we need to do?
But at the same time, that's not a great way to foster your relationship with a top fighter.
What do we need to do? Well, giving him $50 million helps. What do we need to do with to save North American MMA from dying? Because it's dying, you guys. North American MMA is dying.
What is a straw man you're building up?
No, it's not a straw man. Literally, it's hemorrhaging. It's fucking the expansion is just crushed. It's literally December, January every goddamn year we have this doldrums of MMA conversation.
McKinley's not happy with this.
Good.
Took off.
Fuck him.
Yeah, who's pushing that? Who's pushing that?
Oh, Nate and Zach Arnold. Zach Arnold says UFC doesn't know how to grow its brand overseas. You know, how many countries have they gone to now? How many fucking different, like, UFC Brazil, UFC UK, UFC fucking Germany, like, how many are there now? It's ridiculous. It's a yeah, you just shrug, because it's ridiculous that people even make this argument. You know what we should do? We should split up the talent pool. God, I miss Pride. This is so dumb. How do I even write about it anymore? I used to be able to write about it and get pissed. Now I just laugh. I'm just like, this is, ugh.
Hey, Derek, did you see that I got name dropped on Bloody Elbow today?
No.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nate
thanks to Mr. Mookie Alexander.
Oh, good for Mookie.
Mookie, you're going to get fired for that.
You know, Tim started redoing, like, all our Head Kick Legend posts and shit and bringing back the oldies, and then he just stopped. Isn't that weird? I wonder if somebody told him to. I still want my archives, SBN. God damn you.
I want my archives just because I think I had some decent interviews back then.
I think I had some either way, like, I gave you dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of pages of free content. Give it back.
No, you gave 32 articles.
You have what? No, for Head Kick Legend. I worked at Cage Side Seeds and I worked at Watch Caleb Run. All that shit is mine.
It's not actually yours.
I read the terms and conditions. I should have access to it.
All right, we're done.
Where's the music?
We don't get music today.
Hit that music, baby.
We don't get music today.
Oh, Mookie's shit talking one of the other authors. We'll just leave that to the side, though. That's harsh, man.
I don't think he still writes there.
Well, still, that's just mean.
No, but it's right.
Wait,
I said that at the time it was written.
Watch him. He'll come on with his robot voice just to say, like, fuck this guy. You gotta listen to Kidnet. You gotta grind to get your name on that masthead. That's why I'm not there. So it separates the bloggers from the wannabes.
Hey guys, happy holidays, huh?
I hope you all get some good shit.
Don't drink and drive.